When should you give your employees a raise? And are they entitled to a Christmas bonus? I'm Kalila Reynolds, and it's time for another episode of Money Moves JA, brought to you in partnership with Exim Bank's Business Advisory Service, giving you the tools to grow your business. My guest today is Colin Ebanks. He is the Director of Human Resource Management Association of Jamaica, HRMAJ, and he's also General Manager of Corporate Services right here at Exim Bank. Hi Colin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And I must say, you look very dapper. I love this suit.
All credit to my wife.
Oh, she's a brilliant lady, I'm sure.
I fundamentally agree with you.
So let's talk about this issue of a raise. Christmas bonuses, Christmas is around the corner. How do we know when it's time for an employee to get a raise or whether they deserve a bonus? What are the deciding factors?
A couple of things that any small business should think about. First and foremost, can you afford it? Fundamentally, it's about the money at the end of the day. These are COVIDious times, so we have to be mindful of cash flow, revenue, profitability. Can the business survive? Because, especially in Jamaica, your salary, your budget for salary tends to be a large chunk of any business's costs. Mm-hmm. So can the business afford it? Secondly, especially when you're talking about a Christmas bonus, you need to think about the long run. At the end of the day, if you do it this year, mm-hmm. an expectation is built, irrespective of whatever performance happens next year, you're going to have to do it because that's human nature. Right. And if you don't, then you're going to have potential employee issues to manage at that time. So always consider the long run. Something else you have to consider at the end of the day, do you have a policy for this? Is this something that was discussed? Are you doing it at the spur of the moment? Is it a reaction to something else? I have found that it's always best to think about these things from before, mm-hmm. and you can plan, put certain criteria in place, so you can know that, okay, when these check marks are met, then somebody will qualify. Another thing to consider is, okay, if you're going to do it, is it going to be fair? And I put that in quotes because at the end of the day, there are a couple ways you can do a bonus. Maybe all employees get the same amount of money. Mm-hmm. That's one way to do it. But that, studies have shown that that may not be the most effective way of rewarding people. You want to encourage performance at the end of the day. So maybe a high performer deserves a higher amount of money. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have to navigate these things.
What about percentage versus cash? Rather than giving everybody 10 grand, as a Christmas bonus or as an incentive, maybe a 10%.
That's one way to do it. I can tell you I was a part of an organization once where the person who got the highest dollar and percentage was the groundsman, because he was with the boss from day one, mm-hmm. through thick and thin, and as such always got a reward. So that's one way to do it. You can do it like that. I tend, my own bias, to favor strictly performance-based pay because I want to reward and encourage good behavior. I want to encourage high performance, employee efficiency. So I've found that that's the best way to go about it. But in today's society, sometimes you get a reward for showing up. Mm-hmm. That may be something you want to consider, and you can think about the percentage increase as a fairer way of going about that. There are other considerations you can have in mind. It doesn't have to be strictly cash. It can be a benefit. When talking about bonus, everybody obviously wants the cash, but it may be, that prime parking spot. It may be extra time off, depending on the nature of your business, if you can afford it like that. So I've always encouraged persons to be creative and not limit themselves to just a cash or a percentage. Think outside of the box, but most importantly, have that dialogue, certainly at the management level, but also with your staff. You need to know what meets them where they are, mm-hmm. and what would be meaningful to them as a way of increasing performance. So that's one way to do it.
Right. So, but if you're going to go with performance-based pay, then you have to assess, don't you?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that tends to be a little challenging for small businesses, startups, medium-sized enterprises. Sometimes you have to have performance metrics built in first. But it's always good to have that way before you think about a Christmas bonus or even the criteria that you want to use to increase an employee's salary. So you definitely have to consider what the metrics are. Depending on the nature of the business, it can be fairly easy to come up with these metrics. But I always encourage persons to consult if you don't have in-house skill sets. And really, once again, design it in such a way that it is beneficial to the organization and to the employee.
Should you give employees an automatic increase yearly based on inflation?
Some schools of thought say yes. I've always tried to look at it from a different angle. Firstly, what's the purpose? What are you trying to achieve? When it comes to salary increases, you should have certain things in mind. Once again, budget, of course, but you may want to reward for years of service because your competition is doing it and you need to stay competitive. You may want to reward for other factors such as you said, inflation or strictly on performance. At the end of the day, what is important is that you know why you're doing it and you know what the end you want to achieve. Some people, it's strictly about retaining talent. Some people, it's about rewarding. And for others, it may be just at the end of the day, this is the right thing for my organization to do because this is the culture of the organization that we want to build. So have that in mind before you take such steps. That's how I have always advocated for it.
Is there a set period of time? You mentioned if you have a long service person, is there a set period of time that you should be evaluating and considering a salary increase?
Absolutely.
Like
I think, well, I would say, especially in Jamaica, you have to look at it annually. At the very least, you have to look at it annually. Some organizations can do it semi-annually, but certainly no later than annually in this environment. Inflation is real, and the competition out there for good talent is really heating up. Your high performers have options, and they can leave and go to your competition. So you want to ensure that you continuously assess performance and reward. So you're going to do that. A lot of organizations use the annual review process to do that. And I think most persons are comfortable with that in established businesses. So I would say at least annually.
There's a tradition to pay staff early for Christmas. How early should that be done?
I don't think there's any set day. The government of Jamaica has traditionally done it, say, a week earlier. I know some private sector entities tend to follow that model. What is important, once again, is that it's clearly communicated to staff, so you're not surprising anybody. And you recognize that paying early means that January stretch can be a little challenging for some. So, especially in Jamaica, when a lot of entities pay, monthly, you need to be able to manage expectations properly. So I wouldn't say there's a set time, but I do know employees appreciate that little extra time to maybe do their Christmas shopping and get that out of the way.
Right.
But just remember the school fee in January.
Just remember, January has 6 months.
It's a long month, the longest of the year.
It is indeed. Well, thank you so much for these tips. These are very useful in helping us to plan how we go about giving our employees salary increases. Thanks again.
Anytime, Kalila.
All right. And tell your wife hello.
Definitely.
Here's a recap of Colin's key points. When deciding to give a pay increase or Christmas bonus, you must consider the following. Can the company afford this? Are you being mindful of cash flow? Is revenue strong? And can the business survive with this increase? Make sure to have a policy that outlines the criteria for raises and bonuses. This way, you can go back to the policy to see if employees are meeting certain checkpoints that warrant an increase. Assess performance annually and give rewards based on that person's output to the company.
That's it for this episode of Money Moves JA, brought to you in partnership with Exim Bank's Business Advisory Service, giving you the tools to grow your business. Visit their website, eximbankja.com, for more information on their loan products and multiple services that you can access, such as their Business Advisory Service. Very, very useful product there. And also visit my website, KalilaReynolds.com, for a summary of this episode. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Until next time.